All right, so here is our Taurus video, and we're going to start off by thinking about the seasons. So in Aries season, we started off a new cycle. We started a new beginning. It was our solar new year. And this was also spring equinox. So now when we get to Taurus, we get to Beltane, the celebration of life. There's sexuality involved in Beltane. If you look at some of those rituals, I think it was dancing around the maypole, and it's like celebrating joyously the fact that we have these sensual physical bodies. So there's feasting, dancing, a lot of skin because it's warm now. So skin is showing. We're really blooming into our own. So back in Aries season, this was like bursting through and you know, when we start off fresh and we're at the initiation ground. Taurus season is where we settle back into the things that we already have created. So Aries being that creative, that was the Brahma from the Brahma Vishnu Shiva. This was the creation energy. Now we get into stasis with Taurus. It's about sustaining and being comfortable, sitting back, relaxing. Although I mentioned Beltane being the celebration of life, that's there too, but it's like celebrate and relax. So there's with Taurus, there is a receivership, the way that we receive. So you can even see in the Beltane celebration that I'm visualizing right now for Taurus energy, there's flower crowns and, you know, sexiness. The natural beauty. So when I say sexy, I'm thinking of natural beauty. The sweat, because they're dancing and there's, you know, lots of skin showing. There's wine, there's great food. So we're receiving that abundance from the earth, the natural abundance. In Taurus season, our plants are ready to eat now. This is the birds and the bees. There's a lot of pollination happening. So you see a lot of bees in the flowers. Okay, so some other things about Taurus. It's the most grounded of the signs. And it is that we mentioned the stasis, being grounded, being able to chill. And we're able to chill because in Aries, we exerted ourselves. We exerted our force in creative ways. So now in Taurus season, we're able to sit back and relax and see the, what do we say? Receive the fruits of our labor. So don't make it seem like, you know, we're not going to also do work, because Taurus is the most grounded of the sign, the most capable of doing work, because they're, you know, physically. And when I say Taurus, I don't mean that person that you know who is a Taurus. Yes, they likely do have some of these traits, but so do you in different ways. So Taurus might be your Venus sign. So this will show up in the way that you, well, it's funny I mentioned Venus because Taurus and Venus are the two that are most resonant with each other. So let's say your Mars is in Taurus. So this will be the way that you exert yourself, being you know, that the way that you force yourself into reality and penetrate reality with yourself, with your will, all those Mars things will have this Taurus flavor. So when I say Taurus, I don't just mean people who were born during Taurus season. It's broader than that. So Taurus as a archetype is sure-footed. They're very confident in what they're doing. It's the most simple, most basic, what do we say? The simplistic, basic, you know, The word is slipping my mind right now. It's not fancy. And it can be, you know, because some of the Taurus things have to do with being luxurious and enjoying pleasures. But like I said in the first video in the second house, it's about what you value and your value system. So Taurus, it is simple pleasures. It does mean simple pleasures, and it can also be if your simple happens to be caviar and a glass of wine and your elegant gown, that can be Taurus also. It's the way that you're doing that. My version of simple, what I see as simple pleasures, has to do with just sitting in the dirt or in the grass or in the field or whatever, sitting at the beach. It has to do with sitting, laying down, and having what I consider to be nice things. So these are questions you would need to answer for yourself. What is a simple pleasure for me? When I say nice things, what does that mean? Okay, so Taurus as an archetype is going to be, that's where I got sidetracked here because I was saying sure-footed, confident, and I was also seeing the luxury and the pleasure. So what is luxurious and what is pleasurable for you? I don't find it pleasurable to go to an evening gala in my gown and, you know, eating fancy like this, like holding my cup in a certain way. Like, I don't find that pleasurable. I find that work. It seems like work for me because I have to, you know, show up in a certain way. My preference is to lay around, be at the beach, relaxing, be lounging around and whatever's comfortable for me. And so find that out for yourself. Ask yourself those questions. What do I consider to be pleasurable? What is a simple pleasure for me? What do I consider to be luxurious? So when I say pleasure, luxury, and receiving abundance, what does that mean for you? So because when I see Taurus as an archetype, I see bare bones. I see a grassy field and a beautiful horned cow or bull, those long horns, chilling out, relaxing, just going slow. But they're so majestic in their stature, which is also something you'll see with Taurus as an archetype. And there's no rush. It's very slow, very easy. The sound, even when you hear the cow and then it's in the throat, and it's very slow and drawn out. Somebody who has Taurus as their Mercury sign, or their Mercury is in the sign of Taurus rather, they might speak like that. They may speak very slow, and the word is melodious. So there's a melody to the way that they speak. The reason is because Taurus has to do with the throat, and it is slow and sensual. So it's going to be speaking for the pleasure of speaking. They're going to sound like they're in a song also. Taurus as an archetype is the song. It's coming from the throat. My dad is a drummer. He plays drums. He builds drums, djembes, the African drums. And once I asked him to teach me how to do this, and he said he can't teach me this because his drum is playing him, that he is just, you know, the music is just coming out, that he is not doing it. This is also a Taurus, when we, you know, the throat, it's like pure Taurus as an archetype is this melodious sound that's moving through nature. And so when I connect with Taurus, I literally just see fields of green prairie lands, rolling fields of green prairie lands, and nature happening. So animals doing animal things in nature, regenerating their lineage. So, you know, making babies and celebrating and being natural, doing what nature does. So it's the sound of nature, naturing. That's Taurus. Let's also look at some of the things that we will attribute to Taurus. Is there's a sensuality. When I think of Taurus, and it depends if it's a Taurus sun, it's going to be the fuel that that person burns, or the words I use with the sun are the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. There's like this weird little hair in my eye. I think I got it. Okay, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if it were Taurus, it would be slow, steady. There's a groundedness to it. And this is where I want to get to some of the words that you're going to see in a Google search. Stubborn. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, why do you got to call it stubborn? And I get it too. You know, like I get that my readings often focus on the opportunity of the thing. So I'll focus more on words that feel like there's a place to go, like there's movement in it, and that we can, you know, that it feels more available to transformation. So I know I have that. That's a pattern in me that you know, when it's like these hard words that are just stuck and fixed, I don't necessarily like that so much. It just gives me a little twinge of like, why do you got to say that? But it is true also. It is a true thing also. It's just another side. And one day I think I'll do the dark side of astrology. Maybe we should get into that. Maybe at the end of every one of these videos, I'll have the dark side of it. Let's do that right now, actually. So the dark side of Taurus is going to be super, this is the other end, okay? So we already looked at the beauty and the grace and the melody and enjoying and pleasure, receiving beautiful things and really enjoying having this physical body. You can just sit here for hours just feeling, oh my God, my heartbeat and my skin and my hair. You'll see me all, I have Taurus rising, I mentioned. I'm just always touching myself, and I'm, you know, love massage. Like, it's my job, but I feel so much gratitude and appreciation for being able to touch somebody else's skin with my skin. So I'm getting massaged too in some ways. Okay, so those are very wonderful things about Taurus, or I think they are. So it's relative, because these other things I'm going to say, you might think they're wonderful too. Okay, so let's go over here. The dark side of astrology. We have Taurus being so set in its ways that it is incapable of change. So it's like used to what it does. It knows how to do those simple steps to get through every day, and that's all it wants to do. And it's fixed in that, and it can be sticky in love, clingy, attached to the things that they're used to doing, attached to the people that they're with. There's a clingy stickiness to it, and not in the sense of like needy, more so it's just likes its habit and its pattern, and if you're part of its habit and pattern, it wants to have you because you're part of that habit and pattern. There's a routine that Taurus likes to keep. This other thing of, okay, food and pleasure and luxury, it can just consume. Gluttony is there with Taurus. Like, it can just want to keep bringing things in this way, and through the ears and through the eyes. It can, you know, bringing things in. Receiving, it wants to keep receiving, and it can become so addicted to receiving that it's stubborn to give. It's stubborn, clingy and holding, and doesn't want to also do the Scorpio part of the polarity of surrendering and releasing. One of my friends who has a Taurus sun, I mentioned this in another, somewhere, I've said this before, I don't know if it's in this course or not, but that he has been with women who, when they get to having an orgasm, that they get scared and like push him away. And I think this part of his experience, because of being Taurus, sometimes when you're heavy in the Taurus archetype, it can be difficult to get to the other end of that polarity with the Scorpio things. So it could be, you know, feeling yourself up with whatever the energy is and having a really hard time to surrender and let go. Hard to fall asleep, hard to have an orgasm, hard to surrender anything. So this is where that stubbornness and clinginess comes from. Dark side of Taurus. Just being lazy. That's a dark side of Taurus. And you can call it lazy or you can call it content. And I prefer to call it content, but you can call it lazy too. And at some point you're watching somebody that's very strong in their Taurus archetype just lay around all day and have a jug where they pee into it sitting next to them and a big bag of some kind of a food or whatever, and they're just laying there watching TV. And you can say that they're content or you can say they're being lazy, but these are both Taurus things. All right, so I'll stop the video here and I'll pick up again, probably a little bit more Taurus and then segue into Venus.